Hello, this is Armando Adano again, and this in continuation to the week 3 assignment. And this is actually the making of CD for upper extremity mobilization. We're actually in the elbow part now, and this assignment is under the class of peripheral joint mobilization by Karen Bustillo, and I'm gonna go ahead and do the elbow mobilization. The case said that the patient is able to functionally position the elbow at 90 degrees with the 15 degrees available of motion. And first, this will be the starting position of the patient, and the patient could do, probably according to the case, is 15 degrees flexion, 15 degrees extension, 15 degrees of supination from neutral, 15 degrees of supination, and 15 degrees of pronation. So if you want to do a passive range of motion on this with mobilization, I could start from flexion, just to assess the joint. If the patient can only do 15 degrees, that will be only to this range. So if I want to start flexion, so there you go. And grade 1 will be very little, small amplitude. Grade 2 will be larger, but still not touching the end range. Grade 3, touching the end range but larger amplitude. Grade 4 will be going to the end range, return point will be shorter to make it small amplitude. For extension, this will be the starting position, just to check the patient. The patient has 15 degrees of available range. So I'm gonna do a grade 1, grade 2, large amplitude, but still not reaching the end range. Grade 3, larger. It's now touching the end range. Grade 4 would be end range, small amplitude. And all of those mobilization and oscillation will be done 2 to 3 oscillations per second. And as for progression, you could do from 15 degrees flexion to 15 degrees extension. If the patient is not hurting, you could do grade 3 from 15 degrees flexion to 15 degrees pronation. You can go halfway as to returning point, or neutral position to flexion 15. You can even do an overpressure going to extension and apply grade 4, or going to flexion, apply an overpressure and grade 4. If the patient cannot tolerate with doing flexion extension at supinated position, you can do it in neutral position, and same thing, you can do those technique that I showed you in neutral position. Or if the patient can also tolerate, you can do those with the forearm or the radial ulnar joint being pronated. Okay. In addition to this technique, if the patient can only perform neutral rotation and limited pronation supination, you might want to add mobilization for those movements. Going to supination, we can only do 15 degrees as explained to the case. So grade 1 will be barely moving it. And oh, before I forget, Pronation and supination happens on proximal radial ulnar and distal radial ulnar. Later we'll be doing more mobilization to this area, but for now I want to focus on supination and pronation to the proximal radial ulnar. So to do that, grade 1 will be barely doing it, and I hope it will be focused on the proximal radial ulnar, larger amplitude, but still not touching the range or end range will be grade 2. When you reach 15 degrees, that will be grade 3 with large amplitude. Grade 4 will be end range but small amplitude. You can apply an overpressure and then back to grade 4 and then back to neutral. If you want to do pronation, check the patient if she can do 15 degrees, which is she can. So you can do grade 1, grade 2, focus on proximal radial ulnar. Grade 3 will be end range, large amplitude. Grade 4 will be end range again, but small. You can apply an overpressure to stretch it, and you can go back to grade 4. Okay. Aside from this, you can also do longitudinal caudal movement. So the placement of the therapist hands is going to be distal forearm or wrist, and then the left hand of the therapist, if you are treating the right side of the patient, will be left palm will be against the forearm in supinated position, and the left forearm, the patient resting on the right arm of the patient, and motion you'll be doing will be going to the feet of the patient. So you can push it to grade 1, do some oscillation, you're barely doing the mobilization, and this is small oscillation, small amplitude. For grade 2 will be larger, but still only to resistance free range. Grade 3 will be to the end range, but large amplitude. Same with grade 2. Grade 4 will be end range, and the return point will be shorter to make it small amplitude. You can apply, deeper push, and then small range for 4, larger amplitude for grade 3. If the patient can tolerate anymore, you can go back to grade 2, resistance free range with large amplitude. Okay. Aside from this, you can also do antero-posterior glide, and according to concave and convex rule, antero-posterior glide is same as dorsal glide for the proximal radial ulnar. So doing a dorsal glide with the head of radius rotating against a concave side of the humerus and ulna, the dorsal glide or antero-posterior glide will increase the pronation of the patient. So the hand placement will be, since the case is patient is only can do 90 degrees or 15 degrees from 90 degrees position, and in neutral range for supination pronation, she can only do 15 range of supination and pronation. You can start from here. So, well, you can supinate the patient to its available range, if you're having hard time palpating the radial head, you could test it first, you know. So from the lateral epicondyl you go distally, and then just try to supinate and pronate, and if you feel that area that's rolling against your index and middle finger, that most probably the radial head. So from there you can supinate 15 degrees to available range. Left thumb, right thumb, left thumb against the radial head, and the right thumb of the patient will be against the proximal side of the ulna. What you want to do here is to glide the radial head going dorsally, posteriorly. Okay, so grade 1 will be oscillation, barely moving the area, small amplitude, still 2 to 3 oscillations per second. For grade 2 will be larger but still resistance free. Grade 3 will be to the end range, large amplitude. Grade 4 will be to the end range, the return point will be small to make it small amplitude, 2 to 3 oscillations per second again. Okay, so last one would be, if you want to increase the pronation of the patient with respect to the concave and convex rule, pronation could be increased if you do a volar glide. So volar glide or anterior glide or postero-anterior glide will be from this position, will be going that side, going to the thorax or going to the patient's body. So hand placement will be like this. Right hand of the patient, the physical therapist, will be wrist or distal forearm, and the thumb, the left thumb of the patient will be against the radial head. If you're having hard time palpating for the radial head, you can do a pronation, supination. So now I can locate it. It's right here. So I'll place the floppy portion of my thumb, and I'm gonna push it to grade 1, oscillate. You're barely doing in the mobilization. Grade 2 will be larger, but still not touching the end range. Grade 3 will be a lot larger, but you're touching the end range or up to the end range. And grade 4 will be to the resistance, and then return point will be shorter to make it small amplitude. Okay, so that's it for the elbow mobilization. Next will be wrist, and I have to stop this video first and prepare for the third and last part of this mobilization. Thank you.